What's the rudest thing a guest has ever done in your home? Everyone has a story from their childhood that still pisses them off. This is mine. I was 5 years old and my snotty older cousin was over at our house. I had just gotten a copy of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for my birthday. He was getting his ass kicked by King Hippo, and he got so angry he rage quit. But he didn't just rage quit, he ripped the cartridge out of the Nintendo and spit into it. Then he threw it across the room and stormed out. I told my parents what happened, and they told his parents, and they made him apologize, but the game was ruined. It would kind of play, but would freeze up all the time. My family barely had enough money to get me the game for my birthday, never mind buying it again. I was sure I would never be able to play it again. Then for Christmas this little shit got Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So my older brother went over to his house and switched our ruined cartridge with his. It was awesome. I was a kid, probably 9 or 10, and my mom had a friend and her son over for lunch. The kid disappeared for about 10 minutes, and at the time I thought he had gone to the bathroom cause I really had to go. So when he came back I quickly maneuvered my way past him into the room before the bathroom, where we had a fish tank. This would be completely irrelevant if the fish tank wasn't cloudy and swirling about. At first glance I didn't know what it was until I noticed smashed and ripped apart pieces of little fish faces moving around in the swirl. The kid reached into the fish tank and squeezed the ever-loving life out of every single fish in that tank. We had a bunch of pizza in the fridge we'd ordered the night before they arrived. There were 3 other families already there, so we had ordered a lot and there were much leftovers, and everyone who was there at the time had pitched in to pay. The one family who hadn't been there for pizza arrived the morning after and were talking about going out to eat. The families were all okay with this, thinking it'd be great to have lunch in individual families and get back together for dinner. Everyone was loading up, including the most recent arrival family, but when we drove off, they unloaded, went back inside, and ate all the pizza. We would have told them it was fine if they had said, "Yo, could we eat that pizza for lunch?" But pretending they were going someplace and then sneaking back inside and eating it was so shady. My little sister, 23 at the time, house and dog sat my 3 dogs for a month while my husband and I went to Europe. One of these dogs happens to be an 8-week-old puppy of hers that we adopted because she couldn't keep him after a recent breakup and move. Everything seemed to be going just fine via the FaceTime calls and almost daily texts. But it was a whole other story when we got home. There was dog piss and shit everywhere. Under the kitchen table, all over inside, and the entire surrounding area by the puppy's kennel. She apparently ran out of puppy pads and instead started using our fucking bath towels to line the kennel. Instead of washing the towels she threw them in a pile in the backyard. When she ran out of towels, she moved on to my husband's shirts that were in the laundry. She also had some guy stay with her that she allowed to smoke cigarettes in our house, including our bedroom. At one point she accidentally locked herself out, climbed through a window, and broke a lamp in the process. She also broke our vacuum in her pathetic attempt to clean up before we came home. While all of this was happening, a pipe apparently broke underground in the backyard on day 4 of our trip. It was raining heavily, so it was hard to tell, especially if you completely ignored the sound of full blast running water. And the notice that was put on our door by the city to contact them urgently. Sister took the notice, set it on the table, and never mentioned it. We came home to an $1,800 water bill on top of everything else. It was an utter disaster to come home to after a month of traveling and a full day of flying. We were fucking furious. We made her pay to replace all of our towels, have the carpets cleaned, and she paid for the puppy's food and pet insurance for a year. I didn't talk to her for quite a while after that. A friend of my dad lost his house, and we had a former B&B, so we invited them to stay with us. We housed and fed them for weeks, while they found another place. For that, we got roaches, criticisms of our food. My dad was the executive chef at a freaking country club, and was a damned fine cook, but that wasn't the worst for me. Then in my late teens. The day they left, I went to play my favorite game on PlayStation, Sled Storm. Couldn't find it. Overturned freaking everything. but I couldn't find it. In searching, I noticed something even worse. My SNES, all games, and half my N64 games were missing in addition to Sledstorm. They had stayed with us as a favor and stolen half my shit that I had paid for with birthday money saved up over years. Wasn't home when this happened, but some family friend I've never met, and their kid comes over one afternoon. Kid gets bored and decided it's a great idea to disassemble every Lego build I've kept over the last 10 years. Almost everything was built from imagination, so no instructions to rebuild again. I was devastated when I got home seeing Lego pieces spread across the entire floor of my room. Dyed her hair red in our bathroom sink, staining the brand new granite countertop, then dripped onto the new tile floor, then dripped onto the hardwood floor in the hallway, and ultimately slept in our guest bed with wet, freshly dyed red hair, staining the sheets and pillowcase. My friend entered my home, and my very typically shy cat came up to see what was up and greet him. He said, "I hate cats," and kicked her. Haven't talked to him since. And edit. To say he knew I had a cat. We were in our 20s, he wasn't a petulant child. One of my friend's little brother took a shit in my room. We only have one bathroom in our house, and it was occupied. He needed to go pretty bad, I guess. My grandpa was visiting us for a day, and I was ill. Had fever and all, so I was in bed, resting. After we all ate lunch, I crawled back into my bed 5 minutes later. He came into my room, kicked me out of my bed, and started to have a nap. My mom came to my room to check on me few minutes later. She found me laying on the floor next to bed, and kicked him out of my bed, told him to leave. I was like 10 years old then. Not sure if this would be considered rude, but for sure not a good thing to do. I had 2 Australian kids staying at my house for a baseball tournament one time. One of them was a chronic bedwetter, but never told us. He stayed for 5 nights and peed the bed each night without telling us. Instead, each night he pushed whatever he peed onto the end of the bed. First night the sheets, second night the actual mattress protector, to stop any pee from getting to it. It was a bunk bed, my brother's, and I slept on as children, and lastly he peed directly on the mattress for 3 nights. Ruined the mattress, and we had no idea till he left. The real kicker though is when he took a nap on our new couch. Peed all over it, and then fled the scene, and we assumed the dog had done it, until we saw the bed, that is. I was around 10 and a few of our neighbors were over swimming. One of the girls, a year younger than me, went to the bathroom and I went right after. She had pooped all over the toilet seat and didn't even try to clean it. It wasn't just a little, it was everywhere, and let me tell you, that girl needed more fiber in her diet. Her mom ended up yelling at her and making her clean it up. They invited other people over without asking if we were okay with it. It wasn't even like we were having a party or anything, it was just me, my girlfriend, and her friend hanging out. Then the doorbell rang, and she was like, "Oh, that's Ed and Eddie, I told them to come over." It was late and definitely was not okay with having more people come over. Not nearly in the same ballpark as the rest of these, but my in-laws always just walk right in like they own the place. Drives me fucking nuts. A couple years ago I put some vinyl window tinting on the front door to keep the house cooler in the summer. I could see out the window but no one could see in. I'd lock the door and enjoy the looks of confusion on their faces as they tried to open the door and couldn't. I shared a house with a few friends, and one of them let a broke friend crash in a large closet we had. A couple days turned into weeks, and then into months, and it all came to a head one day when I got home from working construction in the middle of winter. I was literally caked in mud and shivering, and when I walked in the front door I could hear the shower running, and closet guy was sitting on the couch in a bathrobe. I asked him who was in the shower as I was dripping mud on the floor, and he replied, "Bobby." And I'm next. He was not next. You have been visited by the Sand Doggo. Like and subscribe to turn your rough day into a rough day.